Welcome everyone this morning. This is not a presentation on accessibility, but we've been using groups in Blackboard for several years now, particularly for our general chemistry courses, our labs, where we have upwards of 20 sections that we have merged into one Blackboard shell so that everything is consistent amongst the instructors and so forth. But we certainly don't want our TAs and instructors to have to sort through 400 student records as they're entering grades for 20 students in their lecture or in their lab section. And so groups allow us to manage a lot of those aspects. And I've talked to some folks in the past about groups, but I realized in this new environment, particularly with hybrid courses, groups could serve some benefit for those instructors as well. So that motivated doing this discussion today. And so just to be sure everybody has the link, I'm putting it in the chat again. And what I'm going to do is share my desktop. That first we'll have this document in place and we'll talk about some of the aspects of it. And what can groups do? There's quite a few things. I'm going to go through some examples, but one of the important things and might be most valuable to the hybrid folks is that you can email individual groups. So if you have a hybrid course where a portion meet on Monday, a portion come to class Wednesday, a portion come to class Friday, you could set a Monday group, a Wednesday group, and a Friday group, and it would allow you to email each of those groups independently with basically just a click, and I'll show that. It allows you to set up smart views in the grade center or grade book so that you can see just that group at any one time. This is really helpful if you're doing a merged shell. It could be two sections of the same course and you just want everything to be in one place for both sections, but you want to be able to keep the grade records somewhat intelligible or organized, so you set up a group for each section. It can be used to control tests with user exemptions in the test options. It can be used to control content and assignments by using either adaptive release, where you have one restriction, or adaptive release advanced, which allows combinations of restrictions, and I'll show those as well. I'll show you how you can create a group in Blackboard directly. And if you open your Blackboard shell over here on the left menu, you're going to see this user and groups area. And if we select groups, I've already created one group here, but you can go up and create either a self-enroll group or a manual enroll group. Self-enroll means the students get to choose what group they join. Manual enroll is you control who goes into what group. And so you give it a group name, whether it's visible to the students. You probably want them to see and know what group they're in. I've left tool availability completely in the defaults. There's certainly probably a lot more advanced options, especially if you're going to have group projects and group activities that you want to explore there. For our purposes, it hasn't been an issue just using the defaults. If you remember to, and you want to use your group in the grade center, it's really helpful to click here to create a smart view for the group. And you could start adding users right now in this point, or get the group created, and then you can, under the group options, go in, edit the group, and add users from there. So if you aren't ready to add users when you create the group, that's totally fine. You can go back and do it after the fact. If you happen to forget to create that smart view, there is the ability to create the smart view here. In this case, it's open the smart view because it's already been created, but it is an option. One other point that I'm going to show you here, just so you're aware, you can export your group list. So if you have a set of groups, you can export it out. And Debbie, the email function, which I'll show you, is from Blackboard out to the students at oswego.edu accounts. The last thing, though, that I want to show you, because it may be helpful down the road as you're exporting or kind of trying to understand a few things, is in the view options, you might want to show the group code. And so the group code here is given, and you can see one of them is just 800-j.smith. The other one, I've got a strange character here. It's because I put in a space. But there's a reason you might want to know about these, okay? And in terms of how the groups work with email, if I click on email in this side menu, you get this huge list of who to send an email to. Lower down is single or select groups. And so when you click that, you can pick the group. This is an invalid group. I'll have to go back and look, see why, but you can pick your group, you can type your message and send it. And an email goes from Blackboard directly to the student's Oswego email account. It's not a course message that stays within Blackboard. This goes out to their Oswego email account, which is what I use most often. I rarely use the course message function in Blackboard. All right, so that's how you can do an email, and how we can create a group, how you can populate users just by picking them, and then how you can set a smart view. Now, in the Grade Center, when you're looking at the full Grade Center, and I'm going to show you something, because some of you probably have seen test and assignment in this list under Grade Center. Those are considered favorites. And so in your full Grade Center, under this Manage tab, you can go down to Smart Views. And when you select Smart Views, there's a set of default Smart Views, but then here are the two groups that I created, and I'm going to just click it as a favorite. And if you've got the assignment and test in your Grade Center view and you really don't want them anymore, just unclick the favorite and they'll disappear. And so now when I say okay to this, now I have both of those smart views here. And if I click on those, they will only show the students that belong to that group, or the people that belong to that group. All right. If you are managing multiple sections and multiple instructors, there is one trick that I want to show you as you add people to a group. If it's an instructor, they're not going to show up in this list. Because I know Jeff is part of this. If I look up Jeff and say contains, so any record that contains Jeff Schneider, it doesn't find it. It's because he's in there as an instructor, not a student. And so if I click this show all users regardless of role, then he'll show up. All right, so that's a weird little thing that you need to get used to if you're going to deal with non-student users. If you have a large number of sections or a large number of students that you want to assign to groups, what you can do is set up a spreadsheet. And this is the spreadsheet setup that you need to create the groups. So you'll have that group code that I showed you. You could unhide you have the title of the group. You can lump them into sets. You want it to be available. You have to decide if it's going to be self-enroll or not. If you're going to populate it, make sure you choose no for self-enroll. No, the students can't personalize it. These other 5 group options I've never dealt with. There would be, especially if you're letting students self-enroll, reasons to do that. But then once you've created that spreadsheet with however many groups you want, you can export it as a comma separated values file out of Excel or Google Sheets. And then that uploads directly into Blackboard by doing this import. And when you do import, you have 2 options. You can import the groups, which is what I've just shown you how to do, or you can import the users or the group members. And in terms of importing the group members, all you need is a spreadsheet that lists the group code and the username of the user. And so you just make a giant comma separated value file assigning a group code to every user. There's a whole bunch of tricks you can use in Excel to make this happen, especially if you're dealing with a large number of students and merging a whole bunch of sections the way we do in Gen Chem. You can create this spreadsheet here and basically copy and paste the users out of your Blackboard shell once it's merged. If you export the Grade Center or the roster, this child ID course doesn't always come across. And so I always just edit the paging to show all my users, copy it, paste it into Excel, and then I extract the CRN out of this cell by using the equation mid. You pick this cell where the child ID is, it starts at the 8th character, it takes 5 characters. And so that equation right there just selects that middle 5 characters out of that cell. And so it's a very quick way to kind of automate and get the CRN out. And then you can always use the CRN record to look up, to add it to a section number and so forth, which is what we do when we're dealing with 12, 15, 20 sections of Gen Chem Lab. We use a lot of VLOOKUP to match the username to the right section to assign them to groups. And users can belong to multiple groups. And I'll show you examples of where we do that. All right, so I've addressed how you can create groups, how you can add users to the groups. We've talked about how you can email a group. We've talked about the smart views in the Grade Center. What I want to do is talk some about the tests and controlling the tests and controlling content. Mike, I want to clarify Course Builder. I'm not sure I know about Course Builder, but maybe I already answered the question. Is that correct?
Yeah, when you said, I can't remember the exact verbiage, but you said make it available to everyone, essentially, all the users.
Okay. So I'm going to change to a different shell. I was using that original shell just because I knew there were no student fields in it, but I don't have as much flexibility there. This is our shell for the upcoming one of the upcoming general chemistry courses this spring semester, and we've already started populating some things. And so I'm in one of the folders relating to the experiments. And we have to split every section into 2 groups so that we can keep socially distanced with face-to-face experiments. And so half of the section is going to attend 1 week The other half will attend the next week. So we have blocks, as I've shown here, weeks 2 and 3. And we did this last semester as well, although we ended up going all online. And one of the things we realized is we had to really manage what the students in group A were viewing, or they could see, compared to what students in group B could see, to avoid confusions. And so we've got the experimental handout here, and we don't care if everybody can see that. But when it comes time to submit their report and their answers, we really only want group A seeing it during the week that they have to submit their report, so that folks in group B don't also try and do it. And so we accomplish that here with adaptive release. And specifically, we do this pull down menu. Specifically, we're doing adaptive release advanced. If you haven't done anything yet, adaptive release will be an option, and I'll show you in the case of the experimental handout what that means. So we do adaptive release, and this works for any content or any assignment, not tests, but any assignment that you release. And so you can choose the date range that it should be released. You can release it to just users. You can release it to groups. You can release it based on them successfully completing a previous item in the grade center. So let's say they have to get 50% on a pre-lab assignment before they can start this. You could pick something out of the grade center and tell it what needs to happen before it's released to the student. So adaptive release allows you to kind of set these criteria in this way. But it really only lets you set one block of criteria. The adaptive release advanced. So Magdalena, yes, you can have different due dates for different groups. And I'll show that more clearly here in the advanced adaptive release. In this case, what you do is you create rules. And so I've created 2 rules, rule 1 or rule 2. And so either of these rules might apply. And if I go in and edit the criteria on rule 1, I can show you a few things. In this case, I'm controlling the date. So this is going to be displayed from February 10th to February 17th for people in one group, because I have a date and a membership. And in the case of the membership, it's group A that it will be released to. All right. And so group A gets to see it from February 10th to February 17th. Group B gets to view it from February 17th to February 24th. And so this is how we're managing what is released and viewable to students to minimize confusions. You do have to be sure that the assignments are available and it's viewable to you as the instructor here, and it is available to the students when those release conditions are met. All right. In terms of a test, so this was an assignment in Blackboard. You can do the same thing with content, in this case, a web link to the instructions. In the case of a test, for those of you that might not do this much, under assessments, you will have the choice of a test, a survey, and an assignment. Tests, we handle a little differently. You can certainly do adaptive release, but in many cases, it's easier to edit the test options. And in this case, in the test availability exceptions, you just put in each group and you put in the date range that that test is available to that particular group. All right. And so it's only open and available to students under those conditions. And so this is how you can also control availability. Do not use the due date function though, because the due date applies to the whole assignment, not to each individual group. And so unfortunately, this means it doesn't show up in their list of tasks that they need to complete because it has a different due date for the two different groups, but it does allow you to manage different due dates. And so in a hybrid course, if you were going to have some kind of a discussion item or an assignment based off class discussions, and it was going to be different between the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday classes, you could do that as well and release it as a rolling assignment if you wished. So that's how we have been using groups, and the benefits we've been finding in using groups with our general chemistry labs. And one of the, besides showing the various features, one of the key things I kind of wanted to show and provide to folks is this ability to make large spreadsheets to load all the groups in one shot, so you don't have to pick and choose and do them individually, and even more so, how to upload a file of users with their group assignments. And as I said, students can belong to multiple groups. In the context of this, to show you as well that it can get a little busy, the General Chemistry 2 meets Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So we have for the pre-lab assignments very I'll say complicated release times, because group A on Monday has a set of due dates. Group B on Monday, it's the next week. And so then we have to have group A for the Tuesday labs when it's due, and group B on Tuesday when it's due, and Wednesday group A, Wednesday group B, Thursday group A, Thursday group B. And so we have a lot of release conditions in this case for the General Chemistry 2 lab that's coming up this semester, because of the two different groups and the different days that their labs meet, because the pre-lab has to be done the night before they come in for lab. Their lab reports are due the night before they come in for lab. And so we can't get away with just having a group A and a group B. We have to have groups assigned as well by what day of the week their course meets. But the groups allow us to manage that in this way. And in this case, you can see we do have an A group if we want to email all the folks in A. We have a B group to email all of them. Right now, we have all of the A and B for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And as we get just before the semester starts, I will create and upload groups for each of the 9 or 10 sections of General Chemistry 2 that we have going in the spring. So in this case, we will have quite a few groups listed in this shell, but it does give us that flexibility to work with any of the components that we need to. So hopefully I've given you enough of the background and tools that you can take advantages of groups, and I'm happy to answer questions or go through a few things. If one student does not complete the So in the case of if a student doesn't complete something, it only affects that student, not the whole group. You can also, if you have a student that has a reason to be late, that you want to give an extension to the assignment to, If it's something that's a timed assignment and they have an accommodation for extra time, you can add that exception on top of the group exception. So then that individual user will get the additional time. In terms of tracking activities, Debbie, I'm pretty sure that the user tracking functions still work. I've not spent a lot of time working with user tracking, but I'm pretty sure that it will still work. The Magdalena, oh, okay, Sarah's got it. I was just going to drop in the link to the notes as well, to this Google Doc that kind of lays out the details. Is this document that we're looking at here, Magdalena, sufficient at this point? And to be, totally open, I'm happy to help answer questions individually as you try to
I think so, yes, thank you.
Because it did take a little bit to make sure that we had things in the right setup and the right format in these two spreadsheets to load it. And in fact, both of these tables in this document should link to the original spreadsheet. Oh, I guess it's not. Oh yeah, right here. So this table up here in the upper right is linked to the spreadsheet. So in reality, if you just went to this link, copy and pasted it, you can work with it from there. All right. Any other questions?
Thanks much for this. I have a question that might be for you, Casey, or it might be for John. I don't know if the chemistry department is doing this. I don't really care about the interface between Blackboard and Zoom, but I wondered how you keep the groups the same for Zoom breakouts. If you had any experience with that.
We haven't experienced that. We haven't done anything along those lines at all. So I'm not sure if there's a way to upload groups to Zoom for breakout
there
rooms.
is.
Okay.
There is, but it does require that all of your students have accounts, and they can get free accounts by requesting it from CTS, or you may be able just to ask CTS to generate accounts for all of your students, and then your students would get an email from them to activate their accounts. But they have to log in from their accounts, and they have to be logged in when they connect to your course, and you can require that as part of the settings in Zoom. And once you do that, you can upload a CSV file with the groups defined, or define it right in the interface.
And John, just to clarify there, when you say they need a Zoom account, it's going to be based on their Oswego at oswego.edu email.
Yes, it
correct?
has to be part of the domain because of the way it's set up.
So this file of placing users in groups, this username is their LakerNet ID. And so if Blackboard needs the @oswego.edu, you would just have to concatenate that onto the username here, and that file would serve that same purpose for you.
I do have another question about Zoom, but I know I see we're out of time. So
I think we were scheduled till 9:50.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
good.
there's plenty of time.
It's about the student access to like if we have Zoom sessions, right? I have two sections, and I have them merged because of a lot of their materials are the same, but I do meet with them, and I would like to meet with only the students who are actually enrolled in that section. And so far, I just have it on, I'm gonna tell them like, no, you have to come to the session that you're scheduled for. And I can easily control that because I have 19 students. But is there any way to like actually make it impossible for them to join
Well,
the wrong
I
Zoom
won't,
session.
yeah, I won't say it will be impossible, but what I would do, Magdalena, is I would make a Zoom meeting. You make a Zoom meeting for each section. So they're different meeting IDs.
Right.
And then I would post it here as a web link for, section 1, Zoom meeting link, section 2, Zoom meeting link. And then I would use the adaptive release so that only the folks in section 1 can see the section 1 link. And then you'd have a web element or a web link for section 2, and only the section 2 students could see that link.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does everybody recognize what I meant when I commented about the concatenate? So, if I had this situation here where I had a group code and I had the user ID, going through and adding @oswego.edu to every single student is a pain. And you probably don't want to type it that many times. What you can do is a format of equation where I'm going to take the username, so what's in B3, use an ampersand, quote, @oswego.edu, end quote. And then you can copy and paste that all the way down the list, and it will put the @oswego.edu on every single one. You can concatenate as many cells together as you want. So if I wanted to do, I know we're a little bit off topic, but that's okay. If I wanted to do the group code, comma, the username, I would do the A3 ampersand quote, comma, space, quote, ampersand, and then B3, and it will link them together. So the concatenate can get as complicated as you want. And it's a trick, a tip, a technique that I figured out in using spreadsheets to make homework questions, numerical homework questions, to upload into Blackboard, so that I can write the question out and have a whole bunch of different variables in different columns, but then pull it all back together so that it uploads to Blackboard. And those documents and previous presentations of doing that are open to anyone. There's several that have been recorded previously in CELT, and the notes are out there publicly available. If you need the link, let me know and I'll make sure and get you the link to how to do questions like that in Blackboard. So Debbie, the concatenate isn't in my notes for Blackboard groups, but it is in the notes for question creation. So let me go find. So this is the link to a folder of information on how to make questions in for uploading into Blackboard. There's an outline document. I'm gonna get this converted so it's a Google Doc. Previous presentations that I've done about this, some templates to make it doable. I also loaded some example files for folks to look at. I realize and pulled open one of probably the biggest one and scariest one, but this is where I use concatenate, and you can see how many different things I had to link together to get the information in this field. but this is an assignment where students are presented 50 data points that they need to manipulate, graph. And in this particular assignment, or in this particular version upload, I think there's 500 versions. So there's 500 different sets of data. And the thing is, even more than that, the thing is, once you create one row, all you have to do is copy and paste it as many times as you want to get different sets of numbers. So if you have, and you can do multiple choice questions this way as well, although it's a little trickier, but it's totally doable. If you are concerned about doing exams and you want to have a whole bunch of random number or random questions, this is another way to do it. Here's a multiple choice version. So it's possible, it's doable. And the concatenate is in the discussion in this tutorial outline, which is actually several pages. It's much more than an outline. Do you know if this works, Michelle, what the concatenate and the writing these kinds of questions?
Just concatenate in general.
Yep, I just did that in Excel. Or sorry, not in Excel, in a Google Sheet. This right here where I did it to show you is in the Google Sheet.
Oh, great.
It works both in Excel and Google Sheets.
Yay.
I've only encountered one equation that isn't the same between Google Sheets and Excel. And it's an equation that works in Google Sheets, but isn't present in Excel. And that is split. And the reason is there's a button that you can click in Excel that does it for you. So I've just removed the equation part here. So this is an email address. So you might have a whole list of emails and you only want the LakerNet ID. So in other words, I want to separate the C. Raymond from @oswego.edu. In Google Sheets, you would do split this. I haven't done this enough recently. And so I would split it. So equals split the information in this column and split it where there's an @ symbol. And now I have just the LakerNet ID. In Excel, in the data tab, there's a place that is convert text to columns, and it will split based on whatever delimiter you want.
Thanks. I might be calling you for little tips like that.
Oh,
Always
that's
help.
fine. I've been pushing, both Jeff Schneider and I now, especially with the Blackboard questions, have been pushing Excel and Google Sheets every which way.
I have become the VLOOKUP queen, apparently. So
the newest version of Excel actually is even more complicated and more functional because it will do lookups as arrays instead of being fixed to individual columns. I've not played with it too much yet, but it uses dynamic arrays. And so it does, if you have huge fields of stuff that you have to find things in, it might be valuable. So hopefully folks found it helpful. And as I said, if you have questions about things or you end up with a hiccup, give a holler.
Thank you, Casey. That was great.
You're welcome.
So glad you did this. What is that mountain behind you? It's a West Coast mountain.
That is, I'm pretty sure up on Red